If you and your wife had to cover up a grisly murder, what would you do? You've just accidentally killed your daughter's gang member boyfriend, and now must bury the body before the police find out you're guilty. And on top of that, his gang suspects you as well. What are you going to do? I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the murder evidence in My Home Hero. This guy is going to try and outsmart the most sadistic gang in Japan. Tetsuo here is a wannabe crime writer, a family man with a rich wife, that's nice, but he's a total loser. One day he meets up with his daughter, Reika, from university. She enters the restaurant and sits down, but is covering her whole face, and he wonders what's going on, and he asks her to take it off. Reluctantly, she does, and that's when he sees her beaten up face. She tells him she fell, and he asks her, how many times was it? 4? 5 times? Was it your boyfriend? But she gets annoyed and leaves the restaurant. Suspicious, he follows her to her apartment but runs into this blonde-haired douchebag. Walking by Tetsuo, he overhears him talking to his friends about a woman that he beat up, and then he heard the words, Reika. He realizes that they're talking about his kid, his daughter. Furious, he follows them down this street, and that's when he runs into this glasses guy. He tells Tetsuo that he knows what he's doing and drags him into this alley, beating him up and leaves him naked, taking his naked picture with his ID. And he blackmails him into keeping his mouth shut and to go home. But the next day though, he does the total opposite and goes to Reika's apartment using the spare key that she leaves at his and his wife's place. And then he snoops around his daughter's house, but that's when he suddenly hears somebody coming. Quickly hiding inside of this closet, he holds his breath and sees Reika's boyfriend, douchebag Blondie, walking in. And he's on the phone with somebody, and he brags to them about how he loves to beat the shit out of women. He says he plans to steal all of Reika's family inheritance money and then dump her. And Tetsuo then realizes that the boyfriend is using Reika's phone. He then gets told that someone was following him yesterday, and Tetsuo can tell by his reaction that he knows it was Tetsuo. The boyfriend starts yelling and breaking things in the room, and that's when Tetsuo accidentally drops his phone on the floor. Shit. And then the boyfriend hears it. He walks over to the closet, but Tetsuo quickly thinks fast and calls his daughter's phone, whispering to the boyfriend that he will take him down. Way to go, Tetsuo. How very, Liam Neeson of you. Outside, these men, Kubo and Kyoichi, wait for Nobu, aka blonde-haired boyfriend, and they wait for him to return to their car. And they whine about having to babysit the boss's son, and Kubo asks Kyoichi to go check on him. Meanwhile, Tetsuo's wife enters the unlocked apartment to surprise Reika, but discovers something shocking. Her husband has just murdered somebody in cold blood with a Japanese rice cooker. That's kind of funny. Tetsuo panics and confesses to his wife what he's done, but Kasen recognizes the corpse and realizes it's Reika's thug boyfriend, Nobu. Like a freaking amazing wife, she assumes that he did it for good reasons, and she asks how they'll cover up this murder.
Listen up, anime friends. In the treacherous land of Raid Shadow Legends, a limited animated series has emerged, known as Raid Call of the Arbiter. Brace yourselves for this brand new animated series, which is already in full swing, by the way. Now, let's talk about something that we all love. The animation in the Call of the Arbiter is like a well-crafted weapon, honed to perfection. It strikes with precision, immersing yourself in a world full of danger and intrigue. The visuals unleash a dark allure. As you bear witness to this animated odyssey, it will stir echoes of familiar tales, adding a thrilling new layer to Raid's established universe. With over 12 million views of episodes 1 to 6 so far, oh my gosh, and thousands of positive comments, people are loving Raid Call of the Arbiter. But wait, there's more! Prepare for a slew of Call of the Arbiter related features, surging through the ranks of Raid Shadow Legends. Delve into the depths of champion bios, unearthing the lore behind figures like Gaelic, Athel, Kale, and Elhain, all of whom take the stage in this grand spectacle. And fear not, beloved fan favorites like Death Knight and Seal of the Drakes shall also grace your presence, so it's fine. The clash of titans unfolds before your very eyes, intensifying the heart-pounding excitement. Survivors, seize this moment, for it marks a turning point in the ever-evolving landscape of Raid. This launch brings forth a wealth of enticing offerings. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity arises. Each and every one of you will have the chance to claim Artak, one of the 5 new characters from the show, as a legendary champion for free. A gift that materializes merely by logging into Raid for 7 days, from this very moment until the eve of July 24th. But hold on, brave souls who have yet to embark on this perilous journey. Check out my link in the description, or heed the call of my QR code that materializes before your very eyes right now. Claim your free starter pack laden with enticing in-game loot, and let it bolster your chances of survival. So gather your wits and your allies, fellow survivors. Raid Shadow Legends beckons you to stand tall in the face of the Arbiter's call. Unleash your inner champion, for in this wasteland of heroes and monsters, your destiny awaits.
Okay, first off, that wife is amazing. She's a keeper. But besides that, what Tetsuo did was completely stupid. But anyways, if I was Tetsuo, what I would do is probably go have some sexy fun time with my wife and maybe record it too. What? She's my wife, it's fine. Let me explain. What Tetsuo did was dumb as hell. He killed a man using a rice cooker. Not exactly well thought out. I saw the man that is abusing my daughter. I'm definitely gonna kill him. But I'm gonna take my time first and make sure that I can get away scot-free. And that way, my wife and my daughter will never be hounded down by his gang thugs, by any of his people. Here's what we're going to do.
Step number 1.
I'm going to rely on one of the most poisonous and, funnily enough, very commonly found plants that live along the roadsides in Japan, known as the red spider lily. Check this out. This thing in high enough doses can induce vomiting, diarrhea, convulsions, and even death. Doesn't that just sound like a drug overdose? Very common among drug lords, thieves, and thugs. But that's not even the most cool part. These symptoms can be delayed provided the right dose is given. Step 2. I'm going to begin tailing the boyfriend for a period of time. And yes, I would make sure my daughter is safe for a few days, but during that time frame, I'm going to figure out his habits and see how often he goes on long drives, and also what are his eating habits. What are the places that he frequents? Step 3. I'm going to move on to the fun part. I'm gonna go home and convince my wife that we need to have some sexy fun love time, and in case we die, we should maybe record it. And as odd as this sounds, and I know it's weird, this is actually going to be a get out of jail free card, and I'm going to wait until nightfall. I'm gonna sneak out of the back with my wife. We're going to go to our car quietly and drive away out of the neighborhood. And remember, we know the boyfriend's schedule. Once we find him, we're going to tail the boyfriend and wait for him to reach and stop in an area that doesn't have many people. From there, wifey is going to get out of the car and put on a babushka headscarf, sunglasses, and a walking cane. She's going to approach that loser, horrible boyfriend and pretend to need help. Is he gonna help her? Probably not, but she is going to be able to distract him long enough in order for me, Tetsuo, to knock him down. And then while he's unconscious, we're going to administer the red lily poison mixed up in a water solution in this syringe and squirt it right down this kid's throat. Did you know, weebs, a dose of 2 milligrams can induce vomiting within 2 hours. So what we need to do is to maybe double or triple that amount. Due to the higher dose of poison, the boyfriend would have likely already died that night. His crew would have investigated the matter and possibly even the police, because he's the son of a possible drug lord or a crime boss. And since he is who he is, he probably had some drugs on him and most likely overdosed and died from the shock. Thinking of what to do next, Tetsuo realizes that they are likely up against a criminal organization, and his daughter's boyfriend was somehow involved with him. He tries to think of the next steps, but his wife goes full on evil and suggests that they bury the body. And then Tetsuo has an idea. He tells her to go get these 6 items because it's going to help them get away with murder. Outside of the apartment, Kyoichi tries to listen in and thinks that blonde guy is talking with the woman that he saw enter earlier, not realizing that she is Tetsuo's wife. But suddenly he gets alerted on the radio by Kubo that Reika is returning back to her apartment. Kyoichi plays it cool as Reika passes him by. Entering her apartment, she discovers her family in her place, and Tetsuo nervously says that they were planning to surprise her here but ran into her boyfriend who beat him up. But he also mentions that the boyfriend yelled he was going to kill Reika here as well, and Reika confesses that even though her bae is a bad boy, she thought she could change him. Classic problem. Tetsuo's wife tells Reika that she should stay at their place for a little while. Meanwhile though, Tetsuo is cleaning up the apartment because he's such a nice dad, wink wink, and he's going to meet them back at the house. Outside, Kyoichi continues to monitor the place, and he notices the woman and Reika leave, but his man Nobu hasn't left yet, and it's rather strange, so he goes inside to check it out. Entering the room, he sees nobody there, but hears something coming from the bathroom. Approaching it slowly, he opens the door and sees this lady cleaning. The cleaning lady introduces herself as Suzuki and says the owner of this apartment hired her, and Kyoichi recovers quickly and mentions that his friend left his phone here somewhere, so he's going to look for it, and he calls it. Suzuki is sweating buckets, but Kyoichi ends up not being able to hear the phone ring, saying it must be disconnected, forcing Kyoichi to leave without having any answers. He returns to Kubo in the car and tells him that Nobu has disappeared. Kubo doesn't think much of it, but orders Kyoichi to follow the daughter Reika for now, just in case. And he goes to tell their boss that they've just lost his son. That's gonna turn out well. Meanwhile, Tetsuo catches his breath inside of the apartment. Just as his wife arrives back with his shopping list, he tells her that he'll cook Nobu by turning the bathtub into a pot. cooking Nobu's fleshy body like a steak. This will make the water from the body evaporate, making him smaller and easier to transport. He thanks his wife and tells her to go home and wait for him. Later, Tetsuo boils the body and transport the now shrunken remains in this suitcase, and he lugs it back home, bones and flesh, which on average usually weigh around 20 kilograms, back at his house. He tries to figure out his next move. He could dry the bones out, but the remaining flesh will begin to rot in a few days, which will then become a big problem. The next day, Kasa notices a suspicious car parked outside that she's never seen before, and Tetsuo realizes that it was also there when he arrived back home last night, and it saw him carrying that suitcase. Deciding to play it safe, they make sure not to move Nobu's corpse for now, but Tetsuo then has another idea. He grabs an empty suitcase and stuffs it with clothes. Getting inside of his car, he drives to a warehouse store to get some supplies, but when he comes back to his car, he discovers that his trap worked. Somebody opened his trunk and has been through his suitcase. Tetsuo now knows that he's being followed, but he wasn't taken, which makes him realize they don't think he's connected yet. This means that they're just following him, observing him. He rushes back home and tells his wife that they need to get rid of the body right here in this house right now by using these ingredients that will help them cover up the murder. He shows her composite accelerator microbes, potting mix for gardening, and tells her that the compost accelerator placed on top of the flesh and buried in moist dirt will start the decomposition process sooner, and by using a high amount of accelerator, it will get rid of the rest of Nobu's body within a day, or so he thinks. Reika walks in and catches them and asks what they're up to, but she doesn't know that the body is inside of the pot, covered in dirt. Kasen quickly says that they're starting a garden kitchen, and Reika gets excited but wonders why they're doing it in a pot, so she offers to help them but suggests that they do that outside. And they agree and say, "Great idea!" and she leaves. And while all of this is going on, outside, they're being watched by Kyoichi and his men. He then sees Tetsuo's family step out and tells one of his men to go and distract them while he looks inside for clues. And this shady-looking man then goes up to Tetsuo and tells him that he's conducting surveys around town and asks him a bunch of questions. But Tetsuo can tell that he has some major glasses guy energy and quickly chases him away. But that's when he realizes that if there are people following him, then that must mean somebody's inside of their house. He rushes in and quickly goes into the room with the plant pot, but sees it safe and sound and has no idea that somebody is watching him from inside of the closet. Staying hidden, Kyoichi here wonders why Tetsuo rushed into this room of all places, and he radios his men that he's going to sneak out since he didn't find anything. Later, Kasen discovers a listening device in their house, and these two secretly discuss their new plans, and they make up a fake conversation for the microphone. They discuss where Reika's boyfriend went to, and reveal that she has had a stalker following her over the last few months, and wonder if the stalker had anything to do with the boyfriend's disappearance. Tetsuo pretends to discover the microphone again and announce that they're going to call the police. Overhearing their conversation, Kyoichi and his men drive off, and Tetsuo and his family wait for the plant to rot away their evidence, but they realize that they're running out of time. That was way too close. If I was them, I'm gonna speed up this process to get rid of the body. Here's how we're gonna do it. Lead, a composite accelerator that basically releases nitrogen to the bacteria and fungi within the compost soil. Putting a little bit of that in there is going to speed up the breakdown process. Also, buying a standard pot plant that's heavy as hell and not mobile is kinda dumb. I would switch out the heavy ceramic pot with something lighter, say plastic. Those can be found commonly anywhere. Now it's lighter since we don't really know how much time we have exactly before Nobu's body is now mush. I'm going to put the potted plant outside on our balcony during the day and then place it inside of our bathroom and turn on the shower. And between the sunlight outside and the moisture inside of the bathroom, it's going to speed up the decomposing process. Because look, the police and the gangs in Japan have a love-hate relationship, which means it's unlikely that anybody who suspects us is going to just enter our home without knowing for sure that we are guilty. And the last thing that I want to do is upset the delicate balance between the gangs and the police. By leaving the pot inside of our, for now, safe house, the bad guys are not going to be able to do much, or the police for that matter. All they're going to see is that we're putting the pot outside and then we're taking it back inside at night. Later, Tetsuo and his family try to move the plant pot, but it's too heavy. So Tetsuo prepares a series of questions to his wife. He tells her to memorize all of them in case they get caught in the future. The next day, Tetsuo goes back to Reika's apartment to do a little bit more extra cleaning. Wink wink. But he discovers a newspaper of a father being arrested for murder. While Kyoichi secretly tails him outside, he updates Kobu on the phone and tells Tetsuo and his family made up the story about the stalker, and he knows they are hiding something. He asks to interrogate both of them, but Kobu denies his request, saying that they shouldn't act until they know the full story. However though, Kyoichi doesn't listen and prepares to go ahead with a plan. An hour later, Kyoichi raids Tetsuo and his family, kidnapping Tetsuo and holds his wife hostage. Kyoichi tries to make them confess to making up the stalker story, but Tetsuo thinks fast, telling him that Reika was in trouble a few months ago, and because of this, him and his wife hired a private investigator to investigate, and his name was Suzuki. And suddenly, Kyoichi realizes that the person he met at Reika's apartment from before was the detective in disguise. Still not satisfied, bad though. Kyoichi's men put Tetsuo through a mock execution to try and find out more information about Nobu, and Tetsuo begs them to check his phone, finding the private detective's email on there. Kyoichi thinks it's suspicious, but Tetsuo says they don't contact through the phone for privacy reasons, and they delete all their emails for this very reason, meaning there's no way to prove if any of this is true, and Kyoichi gets mad and badly injures Tetsuo, saying he'll confirm the story with his wife. He calls her up, but she ends up saying the same thing, confirming Tetsuo's story. His wife then improvises and pretends to cry and freak out about not wanting to die, and this annoys the men holding her down, and they tell Kyoichi that they're leaving the house and calling off the search. Kyoichi begs them to stay, but they don't listen, annoying him. His boss Kubo also finds out what he's doing and gives him shit for not listening to orders, and his position gets replaced by another member named Takeda. Everyone leaves, and Tetsuo and Kyoichi remain. He unties Tetsuo but declares that he will kill him now anyways, and frame him in order to prove he was right. He takes out his knife and is about to murder him when Tetsuo yells out that he's gotten extra information from his PI about Nobu, and it's something that Kyoichi will want. Tetsuo tries to calm him down and says that they can work together to find Nobu, somehow convincing the man to work together, but Kyoichi also warned that they must find Nobu by Friday, or he will kill him anyways. Later, his wife picks him up and thinks that they are now in the clear, but Tetsuo decides to keep her in the dark about what developments have just happened, while he thinks about his next move. Option 1, he hides his crimes and collects evidence against the bad guys and report them, or option 2, frame someone else for Nobu's murder. But what does Tetsuo do? He goes with option 3, fake that Nobu is still alive. Just then, Reika comes in and he asks her for a picture of her boyfriend. He then tells his wife that he's going to work, but instead he goes to buy himself a hat to cover his bandage, and then goes to meet Kyoichi. There, Kyoichi tells Tetsuo that his gang knows he followed Nobu before he went missing, and Tetsuo tells him that Nobu was beating his daughter, so he followed him but eventually lost him. And they then decide to try and retrace Nobu's steps by hitting up all the spots that he went to that day before he disappeared, starting with this shady karaoke bar. In there, they meet this woman who claims to be Nobu's girlfriend named Hibiki. She reveals that Nobu cheated on her with many women, but he told her that he was in love with only her, so she stayed. But she also mentions that he was dating a girl named Reika at the time, but she was just a job for him to steal her money. According to Nobu, he also mentioned that Reika was not a city girl and was boring and a needy virgin in bed. That was the last straw for Tetsuo, and he excuses himself to the bathroom, where he tries to calm himself down. Heading back to the bar, he notices that Kyoichi has left, but he continues to talk with Hibiki. She tells him that she knows he's Reika's dad because Nobu's boss came in here yesterday and showed everyone here his picture, and this makes him realize that everybody now knows about his family. Meanwhile though, Kyoichi listens through Tetsuo's phone from another room. He hears Hibiki ask Tetsuo why he's looking for Nobu, but the audio gets muffled, and he can't hear what he says. Back in the room, Tetsuo purposely drops his phone deeper into his bag and whispers to Hibiki if Nobu ever told her anything else, since it seemed like she wanted to tell him something before Kyoichi left. He then makes up a lie and warns her that it's possible someone within the gang tried to have Nobu killed because of what he might know. Desperate, she then reveals that he was trying to win her back, and Nobu let her in on a huge secret. 6 months ago, his gang was supposed to rob a truck full of money, but the day before, Nobu robbed it all alone, and he didn't tell his gang, and he kept all the money for himself, and no one knows about this. Hibiki then tells him about Nobu's secret online account that he had, and she thinks his crime gang doesn't know about this account either. Tetsuo can use this. He can use this account to establish Nobu's betrayal or fabricate evidence that Nobu is still alive. Yes, Tetsuo tries to hide his smile because he just found his ace in the hole. With Nobu's secret account, he'll be able to fake evidence that Nobu is still alive, and suddenly this waiter shows up and bills Tetsuo for 10 million yen. But Tetsuo says that he doesn't have enough, and neither does Kyoichi, so they get tied up. And this guy comes in and gets annoyed at Kyoichi for hanging out with a suspect and tells him that their funny business has now cost them. And he gives these two 3 options for paying him back. 1, pay the 10 million. 2, borrow money from the higher-ups. Or 3, do a job for them that pays 10 million. And by the way, the job is tonight. With no choice, they accept the shitty job and are forced into the mountains on a wild goose chase. Tetsuo nervously asks Kyoichi if this was part of the plan. They oversee a transaction between 2 gangs, and they must steal their package from them, or die if they refuse. Waiting in the car, Kyoichi suddenly reveals that he knows for a fact that Tetsuo killed Nobu, and this is why he agreed to team up with him, shocking Tetsuo because this guy just never gives up. But then they get alerted that it's go time, and they prepare to steal the package. But that's when shots start firing. Bullets fly through the car, piercing through Kyoichi. The car quickly catches on fire, just as these large trucks show up from Kyoichi's gang. Okay, this is really bad. This is insane. The fact is, for a badass capable of murder, Tetsuo is acting way too stupid. If we notice, check this out. Tetsuo's wife acted way too calmly when she discovered the dead body. That means that either she's a secret professional serial killer, like a Mr. and Mrs. Smith kind of scenario, or she's our ride or die boo. Either way, not telling her about what was going on was seriously stupid, since it's clear that she can handle it. I mean, she just watched a guy die. Now, while we don't know what kind of gang these people are in, it's likely that they're from a smaller gang, and they don't exactly look the most organized, which you can kind of tell from based on how they held down Tetsuo's wife. The men left the job shortly thereafter, unlike the yakuza. These men don't seem as capable as the yakuza, which is something that we can use. But on second thought, me not telling my wife is actually kind of a good thing, because Kyoichi right now is shot. Car is about to blow up, and also we know the people in this gang don't exactly have a lot of resources, which means we could kill Kyoichi right now and leave his body here in the car. Problem solved. All we have to do is escape down that cliff right there. The car exploding means his body's not exactly going to be great for an autopsy, which will make it harder for the police coroner to identify upon examination. And all the while, the criminals will not know whose body it is, and we can use that period of time to alert our family and get the hell out of Dodge. Japan not only has yakuza, separate to this, former members of violence groups. Now, when we get back to our family, we're gonna leave town, but also I'm gonna find a way to reach out to as many of these other organizations and tell them that Kyoichi's gang leader's son is dead and that their organization right now is weak. They'll take that opportunity, and any sensible crime lord will investigate a little bit, and if it's true, they might just hop on a great situation and take advantage of the smaller organization's weakness and absorb the group and their territory. Creating a distraction, Tetsuo carries Kyoichi down the hill. Why would you do that? Just let him die! Ugh. Anyways, he's able to take him and escape the madness. But that's when they run into one of these guys. He points his gun at them and prepares to fire, but then they get saved by Kyoichi's men. Kubo shows up and helps take the bullet out of Kyoichi, telling him that if he keeps not listening to orders, he's gonna be in deep shit. They also add to Tetsuo's blackmail list and force him to admit he killed this guy, and they keep the video just in case, and they let him go home. Later, he finally admits to his wife that they're still in deep shit. He tells her that Nobu's gang is still monitoring them, and they have 3 days left to find Nobu, or else everybody here is going to die. And then he reveals the most crazy plan yet. He tells his wife that they're going to plant fake evidence showing that Nobu is still alive with an online video. Forgive my skepticism. Let's see what happens. Tetsuo remembers an old actor friend of his that looks like Nobu, and somebody that nobody knows about. He tells his wife to team up with the actor to film the fake video while he tries to break into Nobu's secret online account, and they get ready for their grand plan. The next day, Kasen meets up with her friend. She lies to him about why they are shooting this strange film and makes the actor put on this wig, saying they'll only shoot him from behind. Meanwhile, Tetsuo tries to get into Nobu's secret online account, but there's a password. Shit. He tries to reset it, but the new login has been sent to Nobu's phone, and with Nobu's current phone being destroyed, Tetsuo then has an idea. He hits up Hibiki, finding out that she has one of Nobu's old phones, and it is synced with his account, and they secretly meet up, and Tetsuo gets a hold of the old phone. He goes to focusing on resetting Nobu's online password account, but that's when it hits him with a security question that stops him dead. What is the name of his pet? He checks in with Hibiki and his daughter in a subtle way, and no one thinks that he has any pets, and now he's hit a dead end. But he decides to confront the gang member that has been following him, and asks him if he can give him a ride. He's following him all over the place, he might as well be useful. In the car, Tetsuo gets chatty with the driver and asks about his life, Nobu's life, and if it's common for gang members to have pets. But the dumb driver confirms that it's impossible for them to have pets since they move around a lot. Tetsuo then realizes that the security question must be about Nobu's childhood pet. Heading into town, he heads over to a bar that Nobu frequented and prepares to ask around about Nobu. But that's when he notices this strange, creepy, already sitting there dude, and guess what? He's wearing glasses! Moving on. This glasses guy then starts talking for no reason, annoying the crap out of Tetsuo, and he talks about his life and his family, but Tetsuo finds out that this stranger has a child about the same age as his daughter, and that they used to own a pet named Cap. Tetsuo tries to end this out of nowhere conversation, conversation, but that's when the man starts going full psycho. He asks Tetsuo straight to his face, what would he do if somebody killed his family? And he doesn't even wait for Tetsuo replies, and says that vengeance must be taken upon anybody who messes with a man's family. He then introduces himself as Yoshiatsu. Tetsuo, now freaked out, gives him a fake name, and the man leaves the bar. He shakes off the weirdness and gets back to his main mission. He takes out a picture of Nobu that Reika gave him, and asks this bartender if he knows anything about him. But that's when the bartender reveals that glasses guy who just left was Nobu's daddy. Tetsuo is shocked and runs out to look for him, but realizes that the man's gone. Tetsuo rushes home and tells his wife who he just met, and realizes that he mentioned that they had a pet named Cap. Putting the name into the computer, they managed to gain access to Nobu's online account, and with 24 hours left until Tetsuo dies. With their life on the line, Tetsuo tells his wife that he bought a tablet with all of Nobu's information on it, including the fake video online, his login passwords, and Nobu's bones. Using this package full of stuff, they'll be able to frame anybody for Nobu's murder in the worst case scenario. The next day, the gang leader and father of Nobu, Yoshiatsu, declares that if they don't find his son, he'll leave Japan and the gang, leaving them without a leader. Nervous, Kobu tells him that without him, the organization will likely crumble, but Yoshiatsu says that without his son, he is nothing. And just then, they get a call with some new information, and it's good news to Kubo. Elsewhere, Tetsuo gets found by Kyoichi, and he confronts him about what he said to Hibiki in the karaoke bar, since he couldn't hear him. Tetsuo makes something up and tells him that his phone slipped into his bag, and Kyoichi tells him that he knows the true story. Tetsuo didn't hire a PI, only a cleaning service, and that cleaning service person saw Nobu leave the apartment and told Tetsuo where Nobu was, and that's when Tetsuo killed him. Tetsuo told him that he's crazy and he has no evidence, but Kyoichi smiles and says that he doesn't need evidence. As long as Nobu's father believes the story, Tetsuo's a walking dead man. With no backup moves left, Tetsuo tries to remain calm, but that's when they get a call from Kyoichi's gang telling him that they found Nobu. They find an online video of someone who looks just like Nobu, and it's a little weird. They can't see his face, and in the comments of the video, somebody was claiming that they are the real Nobu. The gang has also verified that the mysterious comment came from Nobu's private account. They update to Nobu and Kyoichi that they are verifying the video, but they order Kyoichi to go to meet up with this new boss, a man named Takeda, and to take Tetsuo with him. They go to meet the mysterious man, but both of them don't realize that this man is going to ruin their lives. Later, they arrive at this van and see the gang members analyzing the video. They reveal that it was uploaded from an anonymous source, which was shot in low quality, making it hard to identify anything. They get annoyed that Hibiki didn't tell them about Nobu's online social media account, and says that they should mess her up next time they see her to keep her in line. And they have no idea that Tetsuo is hiding an extra phone under his hat, already on a call with his wife, who's listening in, just in case they need to go to plan B, to target the one man who is their current biggest threat here, Kyoichi. Tetsuo makes small talk with everybody and figures out their laptops reset every time they turn it on, and Kyoichi gets annoyed that his gang is revealing information and is about to throw hands when Takeda comes in and tells everybody that he's 70% sure that the online video of Nobu is a fake. They think the man in the video doesn't walk like Nobu, but Takeda tells them to confirm for sure, making Tetsuo shake in fear about what's to come. Alright, look, for a bunch of suburban killers, Tetsuo and his wife really did everything wrong here. I would have dressed up fake Nobu like a Japanese layered dish. Let me explain. The way people walk is known as their gait, okay? Each person's gait is unique depending on their weight, spinal alignment, posture, yada yada yada. The point is, why change just the hair? You gotta change the whole person. He has to embody Nobu, because the people who know him best might be able to pick up on cues that are not Nobu. For example, why wear restrictive clothing like skinny jeans that restricts free movement in the areas of the hips and knees, whereas if you wear baggy clothing, that's gonna hide more of the subtleties of a gait. And sure, they might have picked up on why the heck would Nobu dress like this, but it does eliminate one factor that they can use to figure out if this Nobu is real or not. Kyoichi then drags Tetsuo out to show him something. Getting in the car, he tells him to make sure that his family's out of the house when they get there, and he has no idea that Tetsuo's wife is already listening in on the whole thing. Arriving, Kyoichi also tells Tetsuo the last time he was here, he thought that plant pot was rather suspicious, and he tells him to dump it out. Tetsuo nervously pours out the dirt, praying to the good lord that flesh has already finished rotting, and it has. But he notices a single strand of Nobu's blonde hair, and Kyoichi starts to notice something in the dirt, but that's just when Tetsuo's wife shows up and drags them back in the house for drinks. Ooh, that was close. With his guard lowered, Kyoichi tells them that he has planted listening devices in the house and that he's onto them. The wife gets really mad, but he says if she tries anything, he has already blackmailed Tetsuo. And that's when Kyoichi suddenly gets a stomachache and runs into the bathroom. And that's when Tetsuo realizes that his wife is put laxatives in his drink. Oh, this woman's amazing! Using this opportunity, he quickly opens up Kyoichi's laptop and opens up his email, but its password's locked. Shit. But that's when his stomach suddenly starts feeling weird, and he discovers that his wife put laxatives in both their drinks in order to make sure that Kyoichi doesn't get suspicious. He quickly tells his wife that he will install a keylogger software on his laptop that will track what password Kyoichi uses to get into his email later, and through this they will be able to find out his address, since they'll both need his password and work ID number to access his work email. Quickly installing the software, he then rushes to go, but is forced to do it outside. And then Reika comes home and has an awkward encounter talking about her boyfriend. Kyoichi then comes out and mentions that he knows about her missing boyfriend, and he takes his laptop back into the bathroom. Reika gets mad at her family that this stranger told her about Nobu and not them, but they tell her a fake story, that they were asking him for his advice on a situation, since he is Tetsuo's work client and a known womanizer, which means he knows how women think, because that clearly makes sense. Kyoichi then comes out all finished and drags Tetsuo out to go somewhere else. Meanwhile, Kasen rushes to her laptop. Using the keylogger they quickly installed, and they're able to figure out Kyoichi's email password and log in, seeing that Kyoichi just received an email about Tetsuo and his family. The email states they'll know if the online video of Nobu is fake within 24 hours, and that if it is, Yoshiatsu will leave the company forever. She also sees instructions for Kyoichi to keep watch on Tetsuo until then, and then to frame him for the murder if they get no answers. Meanwhile, Reika is about to go out, but that's when she notices a note in her shoe left by Kyoichi, telling her that her parents are hiding something, and that he has secrets that he can tell her if they want to meet. He also leaves his email, and she decides to contact him. Alright, we're in big trouble here. Look, Reika here has just been targeted by a sick, suspicious douchebag, and if I was her, I would use the power of networking, known as an online women's group. Let me explain. Reika is a college woman who is just told that a person she's about to contact is a known womanizer, and this means that despite all the smarts people can try and get at school, some people will just never be that bright. Which means I'm getting some major Sakura vibes from her. But if I was Reika, before meeting this man, I would first pose a question, and then I would ask maybe in Reddit and see how dumb my thinking really is. Because the man who just left was like 20,000 times our age. And then we have to consider the feeling of what it must be like to be, well, attractive. Because according to Quora and the Ask Women of Reddit, which is a really nice subreddit by the way, women get hit on 75.25 times on average per day. At least that's what it seems like according to the comments. Anyways, at this point, with the way that we look and the situation we're in, it's clear that this man is obsessed with us, which is why I would work on figuring out how to disengage with this stalker. Stalkers on average are either unemployed or have a job that allows them to take off for their stalking. And this means that he could strike again at any time. And the first thing that we shouldn't do is to respond to a stalker's calls for attention. Don't do that! But what I would do is start to gather evidence on him. And I'm also going to keep this letter, and I would likely tell everybody about this man. Hell, I would even post it on Instagram, Facebook, and even LinkedIn, everywhere. That way, people will be paying attention if we happen to go missing. Seeing the horrible email, Kasen forwards it to Tetsuo and warns him to find Kyoichi's address now. She also finds Kyoichi's mother's email and takes out Nobu's bones and the evidence with her and plans to frame her. Arriving at Kyoichi's mother's house, she ends up feeling kind of bad about this and decides to abort mission. She gets heading back and she gets updated from the keylogging software from Kyoichi's device that an email is being sent. And she finds out that Kyoichi is trying to meet up with their daughter for some reason, forcing her to come up with a plan on the spot. Meanwhile, Kyoichi takes Tetsuo out to Reika's apartment. He starts searching around and calls someone on the phone. He then handcuffs Tetsuo and tells him that he's leaving for a bit, but he is also tracking Tetsuo on his phone in case he tries anything funny. Now alone, Tetsuo quickly takes out his keylogging software and finds out that Kyoichi has been texting his daughter and is on his way to meet her. He also finds out from his email that somebody from Kyoichi's gang is coming to deliver a package to Reika's apartment. He calls his wife and tells her to come meet him quick, along with a bag full of evidence, and also to bring a GPS. Tetsuo slips out of the handcuffs right as his wife arrives, and he places a GPS tracker inside of this empty envelope, logging into Kyoichi's email and pretending to be Kyoichi. He tells the runner arriving soon that if he can also deliver an envelope inside Reika's mailbox, and to deliver that to his apartment. Using the GPS, they'll be able to find out where Kyoichi lives, and Tetsuo deletes all traces of this email. He then runs down and places the envelope with the GPS tracker inside of the mailbox, and they wait. Minutes later, they just made it. The runner arrives to deliver Tetsuo's package, and he takes the package that he thinks Kyoichi left for him. Waiting for the runner to leave, Tetsuo and his wife then look inside of the package, and Kyoichi has just received and discovers an ALS flashlight inside, and realizes that Kyoichi plans to use this to find any secret blood stains in Reika's apartment. On the clock, he quickly tells his wife to go stop Reika from meeting Kyoichi while he tracks down Kyoichi's apartment, and he leaves his phone here to not be tracked, and the two split up, knowing that he must get back back here in time before Kyoichi comes back. Kasen then quickly tracks Reika down and pretends to accidentally bump into her, and she starts getting all emotional and forces Reika to hang out with her instead. Meanwhile, though tracking the GPS, Tetsuo soon arrives at Kyoichi's apartment and sees which mailbox the runner places his oversized envelope. Through this, he finds out Kyoichi's apartment number and heads straight there. And then he gets an update that Kasen has stopped Reika from meeting Kyoichi. Reaching the apartment, he finds out that Kyoichi has lock-proofed his door so good that the lock is blurred on screen. That's intense. Fun facts, my weebs. Did you know it's illegal to show lockpicking, even in anime? I know, so weird. But then Tetsuo realizes that he can't get in. He tries to access his room from the roof, but also can't get in, forcing him to come up with a new plan. He rushes to this store and buys a regular black light that cannot detect bloodstains. And then he heads back to Reika's apartment and leaves his envelope inside of Reika's mailbox. Kyoichi will think that it's for him. Kyoichi also arrives just a few minutes later and goes to pick up the envelope that he thinks the runner left for him. He takes out the flashlight in the apartment and sees that Tetsuo is still chained up, and he begins using it to see if he can find any of Nobu's bloodstains here, and he has no idea that he's not using the same light that the runner left him, and sure enough, he doesn't find anything. But he senses something is off, and he calls the runner to complain, but he tells Kyoichi that he's using the best brand of flashlight. He also tells him that he left a package at his apartment like he asked. Hearing this, Kyoichi gets confused, but the runner tells him that Kyoichi sent him an email about 30 minutes ago. Suspicious. Kyoichi looks at Tetsuo, but realizes that according to the GPS on his phone, Tetsuo never left Reika's apartment. He then decides to restart his laptop, erasing all the data on his account for that day, along with the email to the runner. Tetsuo quickly mentions that he thinks Takeda might be trying to frame him instead, because how could he do anything? He's been inside the apartment the whole time. But then he has a realization and says that it might be possible that Takeda put something in Kyoichi's apartment. Now a little nervous, Kyoichi then decides to go back to his place and check it out and takes Tetsuo with him. There, Kyoichi finds no envelope in his mailbox and gets even more confused. Heading inside of his apartment, Tetsuo clocks Kyoichi's safe and sees that he has a little bit of extra cash there. And Tetsuo then reveals to Kyoichi that he wants to take down Takeda for putting his family through all of this hell, and asks Kyoichi that they should work together on taking Takeda down before he takes them down. But Kyoichi still thinks he's suspicious as hell and says that by tomorrow, either way, one of them will be dead. Tetsuo then tries something so freaking stupid it's not gonna work. He tries to sweet talk to Kyoichi and make him relatable, telling him about how both their family died when they were young, and holy shit, his trick worked! Kyoichi lowered his guard. Cannot believe it. He then decides to make dinner for them, and Tetsuo secretly unlocks his balcony door, when he's not looking, of course. After they get called to go meet with Kyoichi's gang. Reaching there, Kyoichi gets in trouble for not following orders again, and Takeda tells them both that the online video of Nobu is officially fake. They now declare that Nobu is officially kidnapped or dead. The smoke in the room causes Tetsuo to cough, and he excuses himself to the bathroom. In there, he signals his wife Kasen to head over to Kyoichi's place. Now knowing the layout, thanks to Tetsuo, she comes stocked with all the toys and manages to climb over, climb down, and sneak into Kyoichi's place through his balcony. What the frick, I'm impressed. Using the ALS light they stole from the envelope earlier, she uses it to see Kyoichi's fingerprint on the lock, and with a little bit of luck, she opens it and places Nobu's bones right in the back of Kyoichi's safe. She then sends an anonymous email to Takeda, revealing to him that Nobu is the one responsible for the armed robbery 6 months ago, and that Kyoichi was his partner. Meanwhile, Tetsuo heads back from the bathroom and quickly whispers to Kyoichi, "No one here can be trusted." Just then, Takeda comes in and says that he wants to speak to Tetsuo outside. There he tells Tetsuo what he secretly already knows about Nobu's involvement with the armed robbery and his connection to Kyoichi, because they just received an email about all of this. He then asks Tetsuo to tell him everything that he's found out about Kyoichi, and Tetsuo tells him that Kyoichi never liked Nobu, getting suspicious. Takeda then announces to everyone that they must head to Kyoichi's place immediately, because something is going on. Kyoichi now thinks that Tetsuo is playing him and tries to hit him but gets stopped by his men, and everybody heads on over. Arriving at the apartment, Takeda's men hold Kyoichi down and they go through his place and find the hidden cash inside of his safe. Scanning it, they quickly realize that this isn't the money from the armed robbery and find a strange package at the back of the safe. Kyoichi doesn't know what it is and swears that he's never seen it before, and he starts panicking. Opening the bag, they discover a tablet logged into Nobu's online account, the fake video, and even human bones and they all realize that it's Nobu's, and that means Kyoichi must be the killer. Gosh, that's awesome! He then realizes that Tetsuo must have set him up, and tells his men that Tetsuo must have broken into his lock-proof apartment, and put Nobu's bones in his safe, and sent the faked emails, and must be working with Takeda! Cause that sounds totally believable. Everybody looks at him like he's an idiot, and Kubo tells Kyoichi that while some facts don't make sense, either he is so useless that some idiot, this guy Tetsuo, managed to frame him, or he's in fact so smart that he is actually a traitor. And Kubo says that because he has so much respect for Kyoichi, he doesn't want to insult his intelligence, and thinks that he has to be the killer, sealing Kyoichi's fate. He's got a big problem now, because he's so freaking squeaky clean that they don't think he's capable of anything. That's really, really bad. Things might turn against him, and then he'll be looking the worst out of all of them. Yes, Tetsuo is brilliant, because he pulled all of this off, but like I said, he's so squeaky clean. Let me explain. There's this crazy law known as the law of economy. Everybody thinks that Tetsuo is too innocent, not capable of much. So what do? They logically went with the simplest explanation, the thing that had the least amount of assumption, which is Smarty Pants Kyoichi was more likely capable of committing this murder and this crime and doing all this crazy stuff than Tetsuo. But they're not looking at it from a bird's eye view. But what if, say, Takeda decides to take a step back and look at things differently? Kyoichi, a loyal, longtime gang member, and Takeda, a new entity who is a devoted father. He loves his family, and he will do anything to save them. What I would do, I would leave town straight away, because Kyoichi has now been found already guilty. And really, the only person's opinion matters here is the big boss. And unlike everybody here, he is a parent, and one who we know will do anything for their child. And just like how he became unhinged when he was forced to save his child from abuse, the same thing is probably going to happen to the big boss man. Kubo feels sorry for Kyoichi and tells his men to bring him back to their boss leader in a body bag. As the sun comes up, Tetsuo gets let off the hook and heads home. He texts his wife that he'll be back later, and he stops by Reika's apartment to catch his breath, and he passes out in exhaustion. Meanwhile, back at Kyoichi's apartment, he refuses to die and breaks free and quickly escapes his men. He tries to trick them and heads to the roof, sneaking back down into his apartment through this shaft. That's when he sees ladder marks on his balcony and notices that his balcony was unlocked this whole time. It's strange, and he quickly heads out and goes on the run, and then he finally puts the clues together and realizes that Tetsuo, or somebody that knows him, must have snuck into his place. Changing disguises, he calls the boss leader and tells him that the real killer is Tetsuo, and if he gives him a chance, he'll explain everything to him. Meanwhile, Reika at home tells her mother that she thinks she recognized the client that Tetsuo had over earlier. She says that the day Nobu went missing, she thinks she saw him hanging outside of her apartment. Realizing this, she thinks her father's client is stalking her. Later, back at Reika's apartment, Tetsuo wakes up from his nap and sees somebody trying to enter, and he quickly hides, and he sees who comes in. It's Yoshiatsu. He's carrying an ALS flashlight and finds blood right in front of where Tetsuo is hiding. He breaks down crying, but sees blood on the closet door. Before he can open it, Tetsuo comes out. He's given up and wants to end this suffering for everybody. He apologizes to Yoshiatsu and says he'll call the police, but this psycho smiles and says, oh, that won't be necessary. He's going to do the nastiest things to his family. First, he's gonna put fish hooks in Tetsuo's eyes and force him to watch as him and his gang do things. After that, they'll skin them alive, crucify them, burn them, and then cut off their hands, feet, and hammer nails all over their body, and then slice open their stomach so all of their guts falls out, and then place their cut-off heads in front of Tetsuo. Tetsuo begs him to just kill him, but he doesn't listen. Yoshiatsu takes out his phone, but that's when he loses it and attacks him, and the two go at it. Meanwhile, outside, Yoshiatsu's bodyguard waits for him, but sees the police roll up back inside. The two fathers, though I guess technically now only one is a father, fight. But then Yoshiatsu gets even more sad and realizes that nothing he does will bring his son back. He then does this nastiness, shocking Tetsuo. And suddenly there's a knock on the door. It's the police, and they've come because of a noise complaint. Tetsuo takes advantage of Yoshiatsu and chokes him out. All the while he makes up some BS lie to the police about why he can't come to the door. The police then let him off with a warning and leave, not realizing the blood running to the door. And Yoshiatsu dies in Tetsuo's arms. A few minutes later, Yoshiatsu's driver comes in to look for him, but can't find him. He calls Takeda and tells him that he's lost the crime boss. But Takeda says that after all the heartbreak he's experienced, it's likely that he left by himself, since he was planning to leave the gang anyways, and tells him to report back and forget about it since there's no point, and his son robbed them anyways. So, staying hidden in the bathroom with Yoshiatsu's corpse, Tetsuo finally breathes a sigh of relief, and finally free, Tetsuo gets to work and does what he does best. A few months later, Japan suddenly gets news that it will experience the biggest typhoon in history, and will likely destroy much of the soil and dirt around the city, and Tetsuo thinks of where he buried his final victim. And what does he do? He maintains the biggest poker face Japan has ever seen, while he figures out how to keep his position. But what do you think about the video? Don't forget forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. And as always, don't forget to check out our How to Be playlist.